We are honored to have Carolyn Robinson, our community counselor and member of our holistic, well-rounded staff here at the Lakeshore. She will be presenting to you information on moving from isolation to connection. Carolyn is our counselor here at the Lakeshore, as I mentioned. She has her master's degree in social work and has been in the field for over 40 years, including the past 5+ years here at the Lakeshore. Carolyn leads and manages our resident and family supportive services team. The Lakeshore is extremely fortunate to have Carolyn. We are very, very excited that you get to meet her today. And now I am proud to introduce to you Carolyn Robinson.
Hello, everyone. Hi, good to see you all. I'm Carolyn. I am, as Jane said, the counselor here at the Lakeshore, and it is just an honor to be with you all today. And we are speaking today. I hope to share, I intend to share some thoughts with you, on one of my favorite topics, which is the vulnerabilities as human beings that we have to become isolated, particularly right now during this COVID. It's something all of us are actually experiencing to some degree. But I hope to talk a little more about maybe some reasons we can become isolated, and then how to move back to connection, how to be connected. And so I hope to give you thoughts that are useful today. I hope to also give you a sense of this most amazing job that I get to do here at the Lakeshore, that I can speak to you about us as a multidisciplinary team. What that means is that the Lakeshore and Era Living tries to incorporate every aspect that helps us to thrive as human beings. And so our multidisciplinary team includes culinary, community relations, who helps us with our living spaces, nurses, a social worker, and activities, on and on. So please, as we go along, feel free to stop and ask me to clarify or ask a question. You can, as Jane said, also shoot a message to us. I have the team standing by to make sure I'm not missing anyone or anything. If you're having any difficulty hearing, understanding, please give us feedback so we can I can adjust if we need to. And then as we bring this talk around to the close today, I hope to give us some positive, hopeful thoughts about how do we take care of ourselves, wherever we're living at this moment, how we move forward and continue to take care of ourselves. So with that said, let's just jump right in. And as the counselor at the Lakeshore, there are many things that I assist with. But sorry, lost my train of thought. Forgive me. Let me get back on.
I'm sorry. Is this where you are? Oops, sorry. Is this where you are or not?
And then, sorry, a little technical thing. I'm just going to ask my colleague Jane, and then do I just move forward like this? Okay. Sorry. Thank you for your patience with me. So just a couple things. Each of the Era Living communities has a master level counselor. Something that is unique to the Lakeshore is we are the only community of the 8 communities that has a full-time counselor. And there are so many wonderful things that I get to do as the community counselor, including things like leading a Breathe and Relax class, where we talk about the benefits of deep breathing, variety of support groups, as well as just being hopefully a very friendly face and a support to you and to our residents as they move in. I do a lot, and my team does a lot with helping people in transitions. So I'm also the person that maybe we talk about the challenges, because even when we're making a loved move, it can be challenging as we shift. So I'm not going to spend much time today speaking about those programs. We'll just, if you have questions though, please be sure to let me know. I always love to point out one of the things that sets Era Living above and above, the leading us in the field of retirement living is the collaboration with University of Washington School of Social Work, nursing, pharmacy. So again, you see and have a community that is very engaged in keeping your services and your supports fresh and up to date and up to the most cutting edge that we can gather. I want to talk for just a second about this need for social connection. As human beings, we all have it. What differs amongst us as human beings is how much and what type and how often and where. So the who, what, where, when is what is unique perhaps to each of us, meaning how we like to get our social connection met. And I want you to know there is no requirement for how you go about being socially connected. Sometimes I will hear people suggest that we're going to make you come out and make you engage in certain things. And one of the things I love about our community is that it is here for you to pick and choose what has meaning to you and to maybe explore some new areas as far as maybe talks. We offer so many wonderful activities and ways to connect. And so you find those things that fit for you, and you have a staff here who is so happy to help in that, in you finding kind of your way and what works best for you. Um, there are a lot of reasons that we become isolated. And some of those reasons include just loss and changes that we're going through, changes in our health, and let alone you'll see on our PowerPoint slide here, the pandemic. And so just naturally, this has forced us in. It's unique, although some of you may have experienced other devastating times in life. I hope not, but you may have in early years of your life where for some variety of social or political reasons that you became isolated. But regardless, we're in a new territory for most of us. And even if there have been times that you've been isolated, it hasn't occurred in the way that we're experiencing collectively as communities. And so that brings some unique challenges, and I hope to respond a little bit as I talk with you today on some of those benefits and what we can do to take care of ourselves during this sort of extraordinary time, and how we at the Lakeshore have been doing in getting creative to get our needs met while we're also socially distancing. So I hope to give you some nice comments on that as well. But I think none of us ever intend to become isolated. As we age, sometimes we may find ourselves in situations or going through difficulties that maybe create sort of this, I like to use the phrase sometimes a perfect storm, that all of a sudden we're finding maybe it's harder to get out, or we're just going through some time where maybe we don't feel as motivated. So there can be a variety of reasons that just begin to sort of creep in. It can be even sort of insidious. It's sort of hidden and not something that we're necessarily choosing or wanting, but all of a sudden we say, hey, you know, I'm sort of missing people in my life. I think community living is growing in popularity and awareness. As human beings, we always adapt. That's one thing that we as human beings often share, is a resilience and an adaptability. Even though sometimes we may feel challenged in those areas, those are sort of some innate qualities that human beings have. Um, and so as we're going through this, we're really thinking and being forced to think out of the box and to think, how do we take care of our needs? And so the popularity in community living is growing and increasing and across all generations. I think people are thinking outside the box and finding ways to be connected. So sometimes our family may live close, or sometimes our family may be geographically at a distance, but also so sometimes I think community living brings peace of mind to our residents as well as family, because we know we're connected. And again, as I said at the beginning, you choose how much you want to be connected and how much you enjoy your own company and sort of the privacy of your own company. But some of the benefits that you'll see on the slide in front of you to community living is increased safety. When we're in an environment like this, there's just some things that are built into the community that provide some protection, including staff and safety and some security protocols and just ways so we can rest assured sometimes that I'm not alone. That if I needed something, when you live in a community like the Lakeshore, you have backup. So if you were to physically have something come up where you were needing some help, or if you were finding yourself to be a little more anxious for some reason, you have support, and all it takes is reaching out to have somebody, depending on how immediate your need, either right there if it's an emergency, or soon if it's something that you're just wanting to talk about, or a question that you have, or a need. It also, what we've found, and studies and research have actually proven this out, that when we live and have access to community living, and when we have access to activities, it improves our brain health. And so we're better able to maintain memory. Some of you may be experiencing even changes with memory because one of the things, there are many things that will affect our memory. One of those things is isolation, not having enough sometimes stimulation. So in our communities, again, as a sort of multidisciplinary team, we try to offer a little something for everyone so that you can find your interests, or you can maybe also pick up some new interests or some new games or some new activities that you might try out. And simply, what can be different than neighborhoods as we age, sometimes we begin to feel more and more isolated or cut off in our home. And in a community, we are aware we're not alone. And so there can be peace of mind just in knowing that if you open your door, even though during COVID we're a little bit challenged, you're going to see people. You have people and supports ready for you if you need them. Our community care team, we like to call ourselves the care team because we sure care about you a lot. We love our residents and we care about them. And so we are there always working with our residents and their families, just trying to find creative ways, as I said, to engage and connect. And so we have gotten very creative. It's hard to believe that last March, all of this really came to a head for us here in Seattle. And so we've been living with this a long time, but we've also found some really wonderful, fun, and creative ways to continue those programming and the services that we always offer our residents. The need for social connection is, as I mentioned, really great. And so when we're connected with others, I'm going to repeat myself. Thank you for catching me. I caught myself there. We just do better. We just know and do better. We could talk a little bit about the difference for if you're an introvert versus an extrovert. Maybe think about it for a second. And how do you see yourself? Are you a outie? You enjoy getting out there and meeting people and connecting and seeing them and getting involved? Or are you a little bit more of an introvert that maybe you really enjoy your alone time and you need a certain amount of time to recharge? So again, there is no one type personality or situation that fits a community living like Lakeshore. We are fit for everyone. And you find your way and the place that you're comfortable, and you have a staff here that supports you in figuring that out. As COVID began to happen, I had residents would come up and talk. And so we might say, well, introverts are going to do better with social isolation, and COVID is no problem for them. While, as in this next slide I'm showing you now, the extroverts who are energized about being around people, we might expect to really struggle during isolation and really feel sort of drained and like something's missing. So I will say what is true is no matter how much we need connection or how little we think we want connection, it is a challenge. And so when we have COVID that requires us to socially distance, no matter what your personality type is, I am sure you've noticed some stress, some difficulty, some challenges with that. So what I've had, I certainly have had residents who said I've been widowed a long time, or I was an only child, so I'm really used to this. Those we might think, well, they're talking about kind of the introvert. But again, have also shared how relieved they are to be in a community surrounded by others, because introverts, just like extroverts, begin to feel the isolation. And so I know that those residents who see themselves as introverts have shared with me how grateful they are to be living in this community and being able to, again, get some needs met, because none of us are an island. None of us. We all have something at different times going on, and we all need connection at times. So what are your interests? And what are the things that you would look forward to in community living? And so be thinking on that. And please, to my team, I'm not seeing the people, so I'm feeling a little blind here. So I am actually going to let them visually support me. So please let me know if there's any questions. Do we have anything going on right now? I'm going to just pause to see and take a breath, because I've given you already sort of a lot of thoughts and some ideas, and now I can see some of our people here gathering. So let us know if you have any reactions, thoughts, or questions. And then feel free to jump into the chat room as well if that's helpful. So I'm just going to pause a little bit to take a breath. Oh, has everybody taken a breath today? That might sound silly, because if we're alive, we're breathing. But as you might just take in a deep breath and then slowly let that breath out. So I'm going to keep moving along, but please feel free to jump in and slow me down if I'm missing something, or if a point is a little bit confusing the way that I'm speaking of it. So again, as I was mentioning a little bit at the beginning of our talk today, we research, science research, and one of the benefits in the last 10, 20 years in our health field is that we actually are able to now study the brain literally. So we know so much more about human health and human wellness and brain wellness. And so we know that that many of these things we're talking about today and that I'm addressing actually help us to age better. They help with our healing. If we think of healing as releasing anything that is disruptive to our sense of wellness, our sense of well-being, and it can be both mental and physical. So we no longer just talk about sort of the physical, because we know that, again, how we feel is very connected with how we're doing physically and in our brain health. But as I started to speak, science has proven out that when we engage in activities to, again, match our own particular level, we see improvements in our brain health, in our memory. We will see improvements then in sometimes other illness factors that we might have. Or if we're physically well, we'll see ourselves continuing to really thrive. And so we just know it's so important, and that when we're taking care of things that help us on a social as well as a memory level, we see improvement. And I mentioned to you, and if any of you have any specific questions around memory, that's something I actually talk in our community about a lot with the nursing team, our pharmacist, the counselor. We actually talk about brain wellness and brain health quite a bit, and how to improve our deck, if you will, how to improve our adaptability and to improve the conditions so that we thrive the best that we can. Even when we have something that we might call dementia, which dementia is a umbrella that just is a term that describes memory loss. And so we all go through that at different points in our life, but there are also other reasons that we can all be experiencing it more significantly. But even if we have memory issues, that doesn't mean we stop having a meaningful life. In fact, meaningful life is even more important. And so we know from brain science that when we take care of our social health and of our connections, it improves our health outcomes. It improves our memory, and it will even improve those if we have COPD, lung issues or heart issues, diabetes. Those social factors actually have been proven and shown that it improves our health outcomes, and we can sometimes start seeing things that we've been struggling with improving. Some of the challenges we're all facing, and if you're in your home, it is no different. But with COVID, I'm going to speak a little bit of that. I think these challenges can happen for various reasons, but during COVID, they definitely have happened, where we've had disruption and loss of our routines. And that can really affect our moods. It can make us a little grumpy or irritable, a little depressed, or a little more anxious than usual. And it has also created maybe some other challenges of how do we go about communicating with masks, things like that. And so sometimes when we're in a community, we're not facing the problem alone and isolated, but we have that encouragement and support of others, even though you know in your situation others are living the same thing. I think sometimes we can feel alone and like we're the only one facing a problem. So in community living, you get to know you're not alone. Just recently, I had a resident who said, I called my neighbor across the hall and I found out we're going through some of the very same things with our health and some of the same concerns in our marriages. And so that is so helpful to us as human beings when we know we're not alone. Because we will say in that supportive environment, we get ideas from each other. Again, we know we're not alone. And we maybe get to see ourselves in kind of a renewed aspect where we maybe don't feel as inadequate or as mad at ourselves for what we're going through. I want to shift a little bit. I want to glance, think you have to pause for a second and just glance and make sure I haven't left out an important piece of my notes before, because I also want us to talk about, as we're leading into, how do we stay emotionally well and healthy? And so I'm going to give you some thoughts that you can be following up with today, but also that in your, as you're looking at and considering the benefits of community living, and as you continue discussing with our excellent team of Jane, Lisa, Alexi, Alicia, as you get to know us and as you're meeting us and answering your questions and finding out specifically what fits for you as you do this exploration. These thoughts are kind of universal. So as we shift into this last part of my discussion today, I want to give us some hope as well as some thoughts on how do we take care of ourselves. But once again, I'm going to kind of pause for a second to check in with you and see, for those of you I can see, if you have questions, you can let us know, raise your hand, or type something if you're on the computer and want to type in a question in your chat, or as Jane mentioned, if you can email Lexi. But let's just pause to see if anyone has any questions or comments. It's sort of challenging, isn't it, to meet in this forum and format, and to, because you may even, and I want to acknowledge, you may have questions and it may feel awkward in this format if you haven't done Zoom meetings before. So please do not hesitate, as Jane said, even as we come to a close today, to continue to reach out and let us know your questions. And if you have questions specifically for me, I am so happy to respond, and Jane and the team are going to make sure that I know anything that we might have missed today. Okay, so I'm pausing. I don't think there are any questions in the queue right now. I don't see any quizzical looks. Hopefully nobody's dropped off and said, I hope you're finding this meaningful. I tend to like, and so I'm sorry, I feel a little off. I do like really interacting. And so that's, I'm probably a little off my game because I'd really like to be more talking with you instead of, I feel like I'm sort of talking at you. So I hope that that's not how it's coming across, but that you feel that you're getting some helpful information today. Okay. Well, let's go into staying emotionally healthy. How do we do it? How are you doing it? I don't know if anybody wants to jump in here and share anything that you have found particularly helpful to you or that you've heard. But I'm going to share some thoughts. And please jump in here with me if you'd like to. So we can stay emotionally healthy in several ways. And one is, as tempting as it is, the first thing you're going to see on this screen is establish a routine. And so when we have sick days, we sometimes stay in our jammies all day or stay in front of the TV all day. But we know, and it might be a little bit tempting to, with COVID, to get out of our routines. But it's probably more important than ever to have a routine. And so even if I am going to guess your routine has been disrupted. Most of our routines have been disrupted. And so we have to look at how to sometimes bring the disruption, how to creatively solve the problem in order to keep our routine going. So it's important to continue to have an established sleep pattern. I hope all of you are doing that. I have been really diligent with myself in my bedtime routine and in my wake up time routine, because that helps me for my mental and physical well-being. That's why that's important. A dining routine when you get your meals. And that is oftentimes one of a very strong attraction for people as they look at community living, is the support just at having consistent meals, not having to every day be creating and coming up with your own meal plan, even though you can continue to do that independently as well. And you find your own sort of routine when you're in community living. But sometimes food and diet is really, as we age, it can be very tempting to not eat. Because sometimes when I'm cooking for one person, I'm like, well, do I really want to bother? Or even if there's two of us. I don't know. So those routines are really important. Movement, we talk about that a lot at the Lakeshore. How to get your steps in, how to keep moving your joints and your muscles, very important. And so we give lots of creative opportunities and solutions here at the Lakeshore to our residents. Part of our routine, getting fresh air. Again, just learning to tune in sometimes to our breathing, because truly when we're under pain, whether it's mental or physical pain, the human brain's protective mechanism will cause us to hold our breath.
That's for sure.
If we're in a lot of stress and pressure, we might forget to take our breath in. Now, literally, on some level, you're breathing. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting here talking.
Run
But
the fans in there with this air. Thank you.
The thing is empty out of water.
what's
Okay.
Feedback.
feedback?
I do all this. I don't know.
Limiting your exposure to the news. I hope all of you have been very smart so far and done that. There's been a lot of stress these last few years, and just some of the news has not been great news on the news channels. So again, you may have already found that you can limit or need to limit maybe the time of day that you check into the news, or how much. It probably isn't a good idea to have your favorite news channel on 24/7. One more back. Gonna go one more back, two more back, three more back. So we're having some technological challenges. I hope it's not irritating, but a little bit entertaining as you watch adult women trying to figure out how to manipulate technology.
There's so many connections all the time.
And I'm not the most tech savvy person in the world, so thank you for bearing with us. So again, those schedules, those routines, how to get our needs met. So I invite you, as you're thinking about today's talk and going forward through the next several days, to just be thinking about your routine, where you feel satisfied in life, but also where you might feel like some things are missing, including sometimes in
I don't have a car right now.
and being able to get supports to get our needs met. So even simple things, what we used to take for granted, such as going to the grocery store, has become more challenging. And so in community living, we have more supports for those things to, again, help when we need help. So I kind of jumped to the bottom there. So we want to, we always encourage people not to be afraid to reach out. We're actually much stronger and braver as human beings when we can be courageous and take risks and let people know when we need something. And so you will find that you have a great team here, really trying to support and always empower residents with what might make your life a little bit more complete, as well as helping you to feel more secure and more safe. Embrace your inner homebody. We all have probably an inner homebody. Some of us come by it more naturally, some of us less so. So finding ways to be your own best friend, taking this opportunity to also be getting to know yourself in a deeper way, and nourish your mind with positivity. So it can, when we become isolated, one of the things that happens to us as human beings, to no fault of our own, is that it can affect how we think and how we feel about ourselves. And so when we go through a health change, or when we go through a loss of a death of somebody who's close to us, or somebody moving away, or a change, it can really affect how we see ourselves. And again, it's not our fault that we might experience feeling worthless or not understanding our purpose. And I promise you, I believe every one of us has purpose. And so sometimes as we retire, part of our challenge as we're aging is to continue to understand our purpose and how to get our needs for worth and connection met. And so it's something I'm always up for a discussion about, because it's just a basic human need we have. And so sometimes when we're isolated, may find ourselves just feeling sort of down, or maybe even having thoughts of what's wrong with me? Why can't I snap out of this? I should get up and go do those dishes. So I want to reassure you that those are sort of strategies that our brain does, trying to take care of us, even though it may not feel very good. So again, I want to invite you to have more discussion with our team around your particular needs and what's going on in your life and how a setting like the Lakeshore might benefit or help the quality of your life. Um, I'm going to switch. I'm pausing one more moment to see. I don't see any hands up. I don't think we have any questions right now in the queue, but just checking one more quick time. I hope you're finding this helpful and meaningful to you. As we are winding down, we have about 15 minutes left, and I want to give enough chance to also that we open up for a little bit more discussion. But I want us to have a few moments just to share this thought. Um, it was authored by another person on the acronym for Face COVID. And so these are some things that we can do to improve our mental health. When we improve our mental health, we improve our physical health. Just like when your physical health improves, you will see your mental health improving. So the two can go so hand in hand. So F in Face COVID, F is for focus on what is in your control. There is so much that we do not feel control over. And so sometimes we need to really break it down into the basics of the day. I can get up this morning and I can get my breakfast so what do we have control over versus what do we not have control over? Some people think of the serenity prayer. Let me know the difference of what I can control. May I focus on that? And those things I have no control over. Um, how do I let that go? A, acknowledge your thoughts and feelings. And many of us were raised to think that that might be a sign of weakness. But again, in brain health, we actually know it improves our mood. When we can just say, I feel lousy today, you will find yourself all of a sudden feeling better, particularly if you're saying it to somebody who can relate and have empathy, meaning that they can understand where you're coming from. C, come back into your body. E, engage in what you're doing. Let me say in C, come back into your body. I think that's where, again, that deep breathing kind of comes in. Sometimes we can get a little wonky. We can start to feel like racing thoughts. We can have sort of some increasing anxiety. We can also feel very sluggish and what we might think of as sort of depression. So again, when we can connect, I'm here, I'm sitting in this chair, and I can call this person and talk to them. That is a way to come back into your body when stress will sort of cause us to have racing thoughts and we're just out spinning in the planets, is how I feel sometimes. E, engage in what you're doing. So, do you have things that you're finding enjoyable? Here at the Lakeshore, we're very creative in bringing activities, suggestions, matching you up with whatever you have enjoyed doing, whether it's arts, crafting, engaging in meaningful conversations, exploring feelings. There's a little bit of something for everyone. C, committed action. Take care of yourself. Be committed to your health and to doing the best you can for yourself and to risking making change, even because sometimes we get kind of stuck because we maybe think, oh, maybe it's not the right time now. Or we'll bargain and think, well, maybe in another month or two, I'll think about taking care of myself. Don't wait. Take care of yourself today and continue to look at being committed to you and your health and taking action for you. Opening up, being open to new ideas, new solutions, thinking outside of your own box. We all benefit when we can kind of challenge ourselves to get a new idea or a new word for the day or to try something maybe new or try something old that we just enjoy. Values, really finding that community and the place where you feel supported and where you feel that it is a match for the values that you have in life. Do you value integrity? Do you value laughter and humor? What are those things that have been important to you in your life? And asking our team questions to help you explore how you might get that in your life and get those values met. Identify resources, this author said. We all right now need each other more than we ever have needed each other. It doesn't matter your age, your circumstance, your job, your retirement. It doesn't matter where we're at. We need each other. And we need to, again, be willing and able to ask each other for help because that's how we find ideas that meet our personalities and our needs and are a meaningful resource. So what I might want may be different than what Jane would want as far as a resource for support and relaxation. But they're out there if we'll talk to each other. And then D, this author says, disinfect and distance. We do not have to be disconnected just because we're socially distancing from each other. We can be very connected, even with mask. And here at the Lakeshore, I'm looking at my team on the Lisa and Lexi and Lisa and Jane here in the room with me. And these people are incredible. We have an incredible team here at the Lakeshore, not only disinfecting, keeping our community in premier state, in cleanliness and disinfection. And even though we're socially distancing, we are connecting with each other. And here at the Lakeshore, one of the things that I most often hear from our residents, from visitors, is what a kind community this is. And so that last piece at the bottom of your slide, treat yourself and others kindly. Put yourself up on your number one. Are you being kind to yourself? Sometimes we talk very mean to ourselves without realizing it. What's wrong with me? Why don't we get those dishes done? No, be kind to yourself. Be a little more patient with yourself and with each other. But I take pride in being able to say to you, the Lakeshore is a wonderful community. It is filled with kind people. We have the best residents. Not that I'm a little bit biased, but we have a great team, a great staff, and residents who care and also who respect each other. So again, you're not moving into a cookie cutter community when you move into an independent living retirement community. You're moving into a community where you shape and define your life with some supports and some opportunities that are available, but also knowing that you've got that backup, that you are not isolated, and that you've got backup support if and when you need it. Now, I may be a brilliant speaker and have answered every question, but I'm really probably not that brilliant. So I'm going to guess that maybe you have some questions, maybe you have some comments or some reactions to some of what we've talked about today. I would love to hear from you. If anybody wants to be brave and jump in and unmute yourself. Jane may have made you afraid to unmute yourself. She doesn't mean it. No, I'm teasing. And sometimes that doesn't come across well on Zoom. So anyone want to jump in with a comment, question?
No.
Anyone want to share anything you felt about today's presentation or our talk about moving from isolation to connection? Something we're all doing. I don't care our living circumstances. We're all exploring that.
Gal Jet looks to see if Jane is. How did Darwin get his?
And I have some hearing impairment, so if I'm not hearing something, you'll tell me, right? Okay. All right. I cannot tell you what an honor it is to be with you. I look forward as normalcy begins to return to our lives in the world, that we are gathering in person again. But I am so pleased we could gather today and that I could come in and introduce myself a little bit, introduce a little bit of what I do, and talk about this amazing community called the Lakeshore, but also talk to you a little bit about one of my biggest concerns in life is, again, how as human beings do we get our needs met? How do we stay connected? And how do we connect in a way that is meaningful to us?
Thank you.
Thank you so, so much. Jane, I'm going to turn it back to Jane. It has been a pleasure. I look forward to seeing some of you. Take good care. Here, I'm going to give you back to Jane.
Hi again, everybody. Great information from Carolyn, our counselor here at the Lakeshore. Again, Carolyn is here with us as a full-time employee and readily accessible to our residents as well as our staff. So we're very fortunate. I do not see any more questions or any questions in the chat. So it looks like we're going to wrap up there. I do think that we've all learned a lot of new things, something new along the ideas for staying emotionally healthy for all of us. We will be emailing everyone that has participated and watched the Zoom today an evaluation form. We'd love to hear your feedback on this presentation, as well as any other suggestions you might have for future presentations. Again, I apologize for some of the technical difficulties along the way, but we did make it through it all right. I don't think any of the information was lost with that. If you do have any questions about the Lakeshore or would like a tour, please do call us here at 206-772-1200. And I also want to let you know that next month we'll be doing a couple more events on Zoom. We will be celebrating the Chinese New Year as well as Japanese Remembrance Day. So please be on the lookout for more information as far as that goes. Again, I'm Jane, and you can also see Alicia and Lisa, a couple of my team members there waving at you on the screen. And this concludes today's presentation. We do hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, rest of the week, and we look forward to hosting you again and seeing you soon on some future Zoom events. But until then, be well and embrace your inner home body. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank
Take
you.
care.